For 34 years, she loved him from the space between life and death, watching over every moment of his existence until she finally found a way to appear beside him. Alex sat at the hotel bar, staring at his third glass of whiskey. The ice had melted completely, making the drink taste watery and bitter. Just like his day had been, just like his whole week, actually. The presentation that morning had been a disaster. 3 months of work down the drain because the client decided to go with a bigger firm. Nothing personal, they said. Just business. But when it's your own company and your last chance to keep it running, everything feels personal. The bar was getting busier now. People in expensive suits laughed loudly at tables behind him. The jazz music mixed with their conversations, creating a noise that somehow made him feel even more alone. He checked his phone again. No messages, no calls. Even his business partner had stopped trying to cheer him up. Alex was about to order another drink when someone slid onto the stool next to him. He glanced over, expecting to see another tired businessman looking to forget his day. Instead, he saw her. She was beautiful in a way that made him forget to breathe for a moment. Not the kind of beauty you see in magazines, but something deeper, more real. She had long, dark hair that caught the dim bar lights and eyes that seemed to see right through him. She wore a simple black dress that looked both elegant and comfortable, but what really caught his attention was how she looked at him, like she knew him, like they were old friends meeting after years apart. "Tough day with the Morrison project?" she said, turning toward him with a small smile. Alex nearly choked on his drink. The Morrison project was the presentation that had failed that morning, the one that nobody else knew about except his business partner and the clients. He'd never seen this woman before in his life. "I'm sorry, do we know each other?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. She laughed softly. It was a warm sound that made something tight in his chest relax a little. "Not exactly. But I know you've been coming here every time something goes wrong at work. Usually you sit in that exact spot and order whiskey. Always 3 glasses before you go home." Alex looked around the bar, confused. Had she been watching him? Was she some kind of stalker? But her smile was so genuine, so kind, that he couldn't feel scared. "How could you possibly know that?" he asked. "Lucky guess," she said, but her eyes told him there was more to it. "I'm Elena, by the way." "Alex," he replied automatically, then immediately wondered why he'd given his real name to a complete stranger who somehow knew things about him. Elena nodded like she already knew his name too. "Your drink is getting warm," she said, pointing to his glass. "And you're thinking about whether you should just give up on the architecture business altogether." This time Alex did choke on his drink. He coughed, wiping his mouth with a napkin while staring at her in shock. That was exactly what he'd been thinking. Word for word. "Okay, this is getting weird," he said. "Are you psychic or something?" Elena's smile grew wider. "Something like that. But don't worry, I'm not here to read your palm or predict your future. I just thought you looked like you could use someone to talk to." The bartender came over to ask Elena what she wanted to drink, but she waved him away without looking at him. Her attention stayed completely focused on Alex like he was the only person in the crowded bar. "Tell me about the presentation," she said. "What went wrong?" Alex found himself talking before he really decided to. Maybe it was the whiskey, or maybe it was the way Elena listened with her whole body, leaning slightly toward him, her eyes never leaving his face. "They said my design was too personal," he explained. "Too much heart, not enough profit potential. They wanted something cold and practical, something that would look good in their portfolio, but wouldn't actually improve anyone's life." Elena nodded like she understood completely. "You became an architect because you wanted to build homes, not just buildings. Places where families could be happy and safe." Alex stared at her. He'd never told anyone that before. Not even his ex-wife had understood why he'd chosen architecture over a more profitable career. "How did you—" he started to ask, but Elena interrupted him. "Your father never understood either, did he? He wanted you to take over his accounting firm, said architecture was just playing with expensive toys." The words hit Alex like a physical blow. His father had said exactly that during their last argument 3 years ago. They hadn't spoken since. Alex had never told anyone about that conversation, not even his closest friends. "Who are you?" Alex whispered. Elena reached over and touched his hand gently. Her fingers were warm and soft. "Someone who understands you," she said simply. "Someone who knows that you're not just upset about losing a client. You're worried that maybe they were right. Maybe you're not cut out for this business." Alex felt tears threatening to form in his eyes. This complete stranger was describing feelings he'd barely admitted to himself. But they're wrong, Elena continued, her voice gentle but firm. Your designs have soul because you have soul. The world needs architects who care about more than just profit. It needs people like you. They talked for 2 more hours. Elena knew things about Alex that seemed impossible. She knew about his favorite coffee shop, the one he visited every morning before work. She knew about his habit of sketching building designs on napkins when he was nervous. She even knew about his childhood dog, a golden retriever named Buddy who had died when Alex was 12. Each revelation should have scared him more. But instead, Alex found himself relaxing for the first time in months. Elena didn't just know facts about his life. She understood what they meant to him. When she mentioned Buddy, she knew without being told that losing that dog had taught Alex about the importance of creating safe, lasting spaces for the people and things you love. As the night grew later, the bar began to empty. Elena glanced at her watch and sighed. I should go, she said, standing up from her stool. Wait, Alex said quickly. Will I see you again? I'd like to buy you dinner sometime, to thank you for listening. Elena smiled that knowing smile again. Tomorrow night. Same time, same place. You'll have questions and I'll have answers. She started to walk away, then turned back. Alex, don't give up on the Morrison project yet. Sometimes the best opportunities come disguised as failures. Before he could ask what she meant, Elena disappeared into the crowd near the hotel lobby. Alex tried to follow her, but by the time he reached the lobby, she was gone. He went back to the bar to pay both their bills, but the bartender looked confused. Both bills? The man asked. Sir, you were sitting alone all evening. Are you feeling all right? Alex stared at him. The woman who was sitting next to me, dark hair, black dress, she was there for 2 hours. The bartender shook his head slowly. I've been working this bar for 8 years, sir. You were definitely alone. Maybe you should call someone to drive you home. Alex paid for his drinks and walked slowly back to his apartment, his mind spinning. Either he was losing his sanity or something very strange was happening to him. But for the first time in months, he didn't feel completely alone. As he fell asleep that night, Alex found himself looking forward to tomorrow evening, despite not understanding any of it. Elena had promised answers, and somehow he believed she would keep that promise. Alex arrived at the hotel bar 30 minutes early. He'd spent the entire day thinking about Elena, replaying their conversation over and over in his mind. Part of him wondered if he'd imagined the whole thing. Maybe the stress and whiskey had made him create an entire evening with a woman who didn't exist. But he remembered every detail too clearly. The way her eyes crinkled when she smiled, the soft sound of her laugh, how her hand felt when she touched his. Those weren't the kind of memories you could just make up. He chose the same bar stool and ordered a whiskey. The bartender was different tonight, a younger guy with bleached hair who moved quickly between customers. Alex decided to test something. Hey, he called out when the bartender came back. Was there a woman here last night? Dark hair, black dress. She sat right next to me. The bartender paused, thinking. Last night? Tuesday night is usually pretty quiet. I don't remember seeing anyone like that. But I wasn't working yesterday. Maybe ask Tony when he comes in tomorrow. Alex nodded, feeling both relieved and confused. At least this bartender didn't tell him he was sitting alone all evening. Maybe Tony had just been distracted or busy. As 8 o'clock approached, Alex found himself getting nervous. What if Elena didn't show up? What if last night really had been some kind of stress-induced breakdown? His hands were actually shaking slightly when he lifted his drink. Then she was there. Alex didn't see her approach. One moment he was alone, and the next moment Elena was sliding onto the stool beside him, just like the night before. She wore a different dress tonight, deep blue instead of black. But her smile was exactly the same. You came early, she said, as if they'd arranged to meet weeks ago instead of her simply telling him to be here. I was curious, Alex admitted, about last night, about how you knew all those things. Elena ordered a wine from the bartender, who served her without any confusion this time. Alex felt a small relief. At least other people could see her tonight. You've been thinking about me all day, Elena said. It wasn't a question. Yes, Alex said. There was no point in lying. But I've also been thinking about how impossible last night was. You knew things about my life that I've never told anyone. Elena sipped her wine slowly, studying his face. What if I told you that some people are just naturally connected? That sometimes two souls recognize each other even when they've never met before? I'd say that sounds like something from a romantic movie, not real life. Elena laughed, and again Alex felt that strange relaxation in his chest. You're very practical, Alex. It's one of the things I like about you. But practicality has its limits. She reached into her purse and pulled out a folded piece of paper. You got a letter today. From your father. It's sitting on your kitchen counter, unopened. Alex's blood went cold. How could you possibly know that? Open it tomorrow, Elena continued, ignoring his question. He's not trying to start another fight. He's trying to apologize. Alex stared at her. The letter had arrived that morning, and seeing his father's handwriting on the envelope had brought back all the anger from their last conversation. He'd thrown it on the counter and tried to forget about it. Nobody knew about that letter except him and the mail carrier. This is impossible, he whispered. Elena leaned closer to him. She smelled like vanilla and something else he couldn't identify, something warm and comforting. Your apartment has hardwood floors that creak near the bedroom door. You have a coffee maker that's older than most college students, but you won't replace it because it was a gift from your grandmother. There's a framed photo of your parents on your bookshelf that you turn face down when you're angry at them. Each detail hit Alex like a punch. Every single thing Elena said was absolutely correct. You keep a sketchpad hidden in your closet, she continued, her voice gentle, full of house designs that you'll never show to clients because they're too personal. Houses with big kitchens and reading nooks and secret passages for kids to play in. The kind of houses you wanted to live in when you were young. Alex felt dizzy. Those sketches were his most private thoughts made visible. He'd never shown them to anyone, not even his ex-wife during their 5 years of marriage. Who are you? He asked again, but his voice came out as barely a whisper. Elena smiled sadly. I'm someone who sees you for who you really are, not the failed businessman or the struggling architect. I see the boy who used to build forts in his backyard and dream about creating homes where people could be truly happy. She knew about the forts too. Alex had spent countless childhood hours building elaborate structures out of cardboard boxes and blankets, creating little worlds where he felt safe and in control. This is crazy, Alex said, but he didn't move away from her. Despite how impossible everything seemed, Elena's presence felt more real and solid than anything else in his life. Let's go to your apartment, Elena suggested. I want to see those sketches. Alex's rational mind screamed warnings at him. Never take a stranger to your home. Never trust someone who knows impossible things about your life. Never let your guard down this completely. But Elena didn't feel like a stranger. She felt like someone he'd been waiting his whole life to meet. The walk to his apartment building took 15 minutes. Elena didn't need directions. She seemed to know exactly where they were going, commenting on little details along the way that proved she'd walked these streets before. You stop at that coffee shop every morning at 7:15, she said, pointing to a small cafe on the corner. You always order the same thing. Large coffee, black, and a blueberry muffin if they have any left. She was right again. Alex had been going to that cafe for 3 years, and the owner knew his order by heart. At his building, Elena didn't wait for him to buzz them in. She walked straight to the elevator like she belonged there. When they reached his floor, she turned left toward his apartment without being told which way to go. Elena, Alex said, stopping in the hallway. I need you to tell me what's happening here. This isn't normal. People don't just know these kinds of things about strangers. Elena turned to face him, and for the first time, her confident smile wavered slightly. What if I told you we're not strangers, Alex? What if I told you we've known each other much longer than you remember? I'd say I think I'm losing my mind. Maybe, Elena said softly. Or maybe you're finally finding it. Alex unlocked his door and Elena walked inside like she'd been there 1,000 times before. She went straight to his kitchen and started making coffee without asking where anything was. She knew exactly which cabinet held the mugs, where he kept the sugar, even how many scoops he preferred. While the coffee brewed, Elena walked around his apartment, touching small objects and photos like she was greeting old friends. She straightened a picture frame that had been slightly crooked. She moved a book from the coffee table back to its proper place on the shelf. Small adjustments that made the space feel more organized and comfortable. You rearranged the furniture last month, she said, running her hand along the back of his couch. You moved this closer to the window because you wanted more natural light when you read. Another impossible detail that was completely accurate. Elena found his hidden sketch pad without any help, pulling it from behind winter coats in his bedroom closet. She sat on his couch and began turning through the pages slowly, studying each drawing with careful attention. "These are beautiful," she said, and Alex could hear the genuine emotion in her voice. "They're not just houses, they're dreams made visible." As Elena looked through his most private work, Alex felt something he'd never experienced before: complete understanding, total acceptance. Elena didn't just see his sketches as pretty drawings. She understood what they meant to him, why he'd drawn them, what hopes and fears lived in every line. "Build this one," she said, pointing to a sketch of a small house with a wraparound porch and big windows. "Not for a client. For yourself." "I can't afford to build anything for myself," Alex said. "I can barely keep my business running." Elena looked up at him with those knowing eyes. "The Morrison project isn't dead, Alex. They're going to call you tomorrow afternoon. The other firm they chose had some problems with their proposal. They want to give you another chance." Alex sat down hard in his chair. "How could you possibly know that?" Elena closed the sketch pad and set it gently on the coffee table. "Some things are easier to see when you're not standing in the middle of them," she said. "Tomorrow at 3:30 Mr. Morrison will call. He'll apologize for the confusion and ask if you're still interested in the project. Say yes, but this time show him one of these sketches too. Show him that you don't just design buildings, you design homes." They spent the rest of the evening talking about architecture, about dreams, about the difference between a house and a home. Elena understood concepts that Alex had struggled to explain to people his entire career. She knew why certain spaces felt welcoming, while others felt cold. She understood the emotional impact of light and texture in the flow of rooms. When Elena finally said she had to leave, Alex felt genuinely sad to see her go. "Will I see you again tomorrow?" he asked. Elena paused at his door, looking back with an expression he couldn't quite read. "Tomorrow you'll have questions about me, Alex, real questions. And I promise I'll give you real answers." After she left, Alex sat in his apartment feeling like every two. Alex barely slept that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Elena's face and heard her voice telling him impossible things about his life. When morning finally came, he felt exhausted and confused, but also strangely hopeful. The first thing he did was check his kitchen counter. The letter from his father was still there, exactly where Elena said it would be. His hands shook as he opened it. "Dear Alex." The letter began in his father's careful handwriting. "I've been thinking about our last conversation for 3 years now, and I realize I was wrong. I was scared when you chose architecture instead of accounting, scared that you'd struggle financially. But I should have supported your dreams instead of criticizing them. I'm proud of what you're building, son. I always have been. I just didn't know how to say it." Alex sat down hard in his kitchen chair. Elena had been right again. His father wasn't trying to start another fight. He was trying to heal an old wound. But how had Elena known what was in a letter she couldn't have seen? Alex decided to start investigating. He called his business partner Ryan and asked him to come over for coffee. "You look terrible," Ryan said when he arrived. "Are you getting sick?" "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me," Alex said. "Have you ever seen me talking to a woman at the Meridian Hotel bar? Dark hair, really pretty, seems to know a lot about my life." Ryan frowned. "The Meridian?" "Alex, you never go to hotel bars. You hate crowded places, remember? When you need to drink away your problems, you come here to your apartment and drink alone like the antisocial architect you are." Alex stared at his friend. "But I've been going there this week. Tuesday and Wednesday night. I sat at the bar both times." "Dude, you were here Tuesday night," Ryan said, looking concerned. "You called me at 9 o'clock, completely drunk, ranting about the Morrison project. We talked for 2 hours. Don't you remember?" Alex didn't remember that at all. In his memory, Tuesday night was when he first met Elena at the hotel bar. After Ryan left, looking worried about his friend's mental state, Alex decided to do some real detective work. He drove to the Meridian Hotel and asked to speak with the manager. "I'd like to see the security footage from your bar area," Alex said. "Tuesday and Wednesday night between 8 and 11 p.m. The manager, a woman named Patricia, looked skeptical. "May I ask why?" Alex had prepared a story. "I think someone may have stolen my wallet while I was there. I just want to check the footage to see if I can spot what happened." Patricia was sympathetic and led him to a small office behind the front desk. She pulled up the security footage on her computer, fast-forwarding through Tuesday night's recording. "There," Alex said when he saw himself appear on screen. "That's me at the bar." Patricia nodded. Yes, I can see you. You're sitting alone. Alone? Alex leaned closer to the screen. The footage clearly showed him sitting at the bar drinking whiskey, but there was no one on the stool next to him. Worse, it looked like he was talking animatedly to empty air. His mouth was moving, he was gesturing with his hands, he was even laughing at times. But there was no one there. Can you show me Wednesday night too? Alex asked, his voice barely steady. Wednesday's footage was even more disturbing. Again, Alex appeared alone at the bar, but this time he seemed to be having an even more intense conversation with someone invisible. At one point, he reached out and appeared to touch empty air. Later, he walked out of the hotel lobby looking back and waving at nothing. Sir, are you all right? Patricia asked gently.
You look very pale. Alex mumbled some excuse and left the hotel quickly.
He sat in his car in the parking lot, trying to process what he'd seen. Either the security cameras were somehow malfunctioning, or he was having some kind of mental breakdown. But Elena felt so real. Her touch, her voice, her presence. You couldn't imagine something that detailed and consistent, could you? Alex decided to investigate Elena herself. He went home and spent hours searching online for any trace of Elena Rodriguez, Elena Martinez, Elena anything who might match her description. He checked social media, public records, even dating websites. Nothing. He tried a different approach. Maybe Elena was using a fake name. He searched for women in the city who matched her physical description. He looked through LinkedIn profiles, Facebook photos, Instagram accounts. Still nothing. Growing more desperate, Alex hired a private investigator named Detective Martinez. He gave her Elena's description and asked her to find any information she could. This is going to sound strange, Alex told the detective, but I need you to find someone who might not exist. Detective Martinez had seen enough weird cases that nothing surprised her anymore. She took Elena's description and promised to get back to Alex within a week. Meanwhile, at exactly 3:30 that afternoon, Alex's phone rang. Alex, this is David Morrison. I owe you an apology. Alex nearly dropped the phone. Elena had predicted this call down to the exact time. The firm we chose had some serious issues with their proposal, Mr. Morrison continued. Structural problems that could have caused major safety issues. We'd like to give you another chance if you're interested. Alex agreed to a meeting the next day, but his mind was spinning. How had Elena known this would happen? That evening, Alex went back to the Meridian Hotel bar. He needed answers, and Elena had promised to give them to him. But this time he was prepared. He set up a recording app on his phone and placed it on the bar. He also brought a small camera, which he positioned to record the stool next to him. Elena appeared right on time, just as she had the previous 2 nights. You've been investigating me, she said with her usual knowing smile. Yes, Alex admitted, and I can't find any trace that you exist. No records, no photos, nothing. It's like you're a ghost. Elena's smile faded slightly. What did the security footage show you? That I was sitting alone both nights. That I was talking to myself like a crazy person. Elena was quiet for a long moment, staring at her wine glass. When she looked up, her eyes seemed sadder than before. Alex, what do you know about the history of this hotel? Nothing. Why? This building was constructed in 1995, Elena said. But before that, there was another building on this exact spot. St. Mary's Psychiatric Hospital. It burned down in 1987. Alex felt a chill run down his spine. What does that have to do with anything? St. Mary's had a patient named Elena Rodriguez. She was 26 years old when she died in the fire. She'd been there for 3 years, being treated for what the doctors called delusional attachment disorder. Elena's voice was steady, but Alex could see pain in her eyes. This Elena believed she was psychically connected to a man she'd never met. She would describe him in perfect detail to her doctors. His appearance, his personality, his dreams and fears. The doctors thought she was having elaborate fantasies. Elena, Alex whispered, but she continued. She drew pictures of this man, wrote letters to him, talked about him constantly. The doctor's notes describe a tall man with dark hair and a small scar on his left hand. A man who wanted to be an architect. A man who had lost his childhood dog and never quite gotten over it. Alex looked down at his left hand where a thin white scar ran from his thumb to his wrist, a scar from a childhood accident when he was 7 years old. Elena died in 1987, Elena continued. You were born in 1985. When she was describing her mystery man to the doctors, you were a 2-year-old toddler. This is impossible, Alex said, but his voice had no strength behind it. After the fire, they found Elena's room mostly intact. Her drawings and letters survived. The man she'd been describing her entire stay looked exactly like you, Alex. Down to the scar, the career choice, even the name of your childhood dog. Elena reached across the bar and took his hand, just like she had the first night. Her touch felt completely real and solid. I don't understand how this is possible either, she said softly. But somehow I've been connected to you your entire life. I knew you before you knew yourself. Alex pulled his hand away, his mind reeling. So what are you? A ghost? A spirit? Are you even real? I don't know, Elena said honestly. I feel real. This conversation feels real. But I also know that your recording device isn't picking up my voice and your camera is only showing you sitting alone. Alex checked his phone. The recording app showed sound waves only when he was speaking. During the long stretches when Elena was talking, the app showed complete silence. This is insane, Alex said. I'm having a conversation with someone who died before I was old enough to talk. Someone who somehow knew everything about my life before I lived it. I know it's frightening, Elena said. But Alex, I need you to understand something. I'm not here to hurt you. I've never wanted anything from you except to finally meet you. I've been waiting 38 years for this conversation. Alex looked around the bar. Other people were laughing and talking, living normal lives where dead people didn't appear to have drinks and discuss architecture. He envied them. What happens now? He asked. Elena's smile returned, but it was different now, sadder but also more honest. Now you have a choice to make, she said. You can decide I'm a sign that you're losing your sanity and seek help to make me go away. Or you can accept that sometimes the world works in ways that can't be explained, and see where this leads. Alex finished his drink in one long swallow. And if I choose to believe you're real, then tomorrow. Alex spent the entire day in a state of nervous energy. The Morrison meeting had gone incredibly well. He'd followed Elena's advice and shown Mr. Morrison one of his personal sketches alongside the official building plans. The client's eyes had lit up when he saw the drawing of the house with the wraparound porch. This is exactly what we need, Mr. Morrison had said. Something that feels like home, not just another office building. Can you incorporate this warmth into our project? Alex had signed the biggest contract of his career that afternoon. But instead of celebrating, he felt anxious about his evening meeting with Elena. Her revelation about the psychiatric hospital had shaken him to his core. If she was telling the truth about being connected to him since before his birth, what did that mean for his sanity? Detective Martinez had called that morning with her report. I found records of Elena Rodriguez at St. Mary's Psychiatric Hospital, just like you described. But Alex, she died in 1987. Are you sure you're not thinking of someone else? Alex had thanked her and hung up, knowing that he wasn't thinking of someone else. The woman he'd been meeting was somehow connected to that long-dead patient, even if it seemed impossible. He arrived at the hotel bar early again, but this time he felt different. Less hopeful, more afraid. The bartender, Tony, was working tonight. Hey, Alex called out. Can I ask you something? You told me earlier this week that I was sitting alone at the bar on Tuesday night. Are you sure about that? Tony paused in wiping down a glass. Yeah, I'm sure. You seemed pretty upset, talking to yourself quite a bit. I was going to ask if you were okay, but you left before I got the chance. What exactly did you see me doing? Well, you were sitting right there. Tony pointed to Alex's usual stool. You kept looking to your left like someone was sitting there having whole conversations. Sometimes you'd laugh, sometimes you looked really serious. At one point you reached out like you were touching someone's hand, but there was nobody there. Tony's description matched what Alex had seen on the security footage, but it didn't match his memory at all. In his mind, Elena had been completely real, completely present. Elena appeared at exactly 8 o'clock, sliding onto the stool beside him as if materialized from thin air. Tonight she wore a green dress that made her eyes look even more striking. Congratulations on the Morrison contract, she said with a genuine smile. I told you it would work out. You were right about everything, Alex said. The call came at exactly 3:30, just like you said. Mr. Morrison apologized, just like you predicted. I showed him one of my personal sketches and he loved it. Of course he did, Elena said. Those sketches show who you really are as an architect. They show your heart. Elena, I need answers now. Real answers. I talked to Detective Martinez. I know Elena Rodriguez was a real person who died in 1987. I know she was describing someone who sounds exactly like me to her doctors. But I need to understand what that means. Elena ordered her usual wine and was quiet for a long moment. When she finally looked at Alex, her expression was more serious than he'd ever seen it. "Do you remember being 7 years old?" she asked. "Some of it. Why?" "You had an accident that summer. You fell through the roof of an old shed in your backyard while trying to build one of your tree houses. A piece of metal cut your hand and you hit your head very hard on a concrete floor." Alex's scar tingled as if responding to her words. "I remember the accident. I was in the hospital for a week." "Not just any hospital," Elena said softly. "You were taken to St. Mary's Psychiatric Hospital because it was the only facility in the area with the right kind of head trauma specialists. They kept you there for observation for 5 days. Alex felt the world tilt slightly. "That's impossible. I would remember being in a psychiatric hospital. You were 7 years old and had a serious head injury. Your memories from that time are fuzzy at best. But while you were there, unconscious for the first 2 days, something happened that the doctors never understood." Elena reached across the bar and touched his hand, her fingers tracing the scar on his palm. "I was a patient on the 3rd floor. You were in the children's wing on the 2nd floor. On your 2nd night there, I started having dreams about a little boy who was hurt and scared. Dreams so vivid that I woke up knowing things about your life that I couldn't possibly know." "What kind of things?" "I knew your name was Alex. I knew you had a dog named Buddy. I knew you wanted to build tree houses when you grew up. I knew about the fights your parents had when they thought you were asleep. I knew you were afraid of the dark but too proud to ask for a nightlight." Each detail Elena mentioned was absolutely accurate. But Alex had never told anyone about his parents' late-night arguments or his secret fear of darkness. "The doctors thought I was getting worse," Elena continued. "I kept talking about this little boy, describing him in perfect detail. They increased my medication and moved me to a more secure ward. But the dreams kept coming. Every night I learned more about you." "This sounds like something out of a movie," Alex said, but his voice lacked conviction. "I watched you grow up, Alex. Through dreams, through visions, through whatever connection was formed during those 2 days when we were in the same building. I saw you start school, make friends, lose Buddy when you were 12. I saw you discover architecture, fall in love for the first time, get married, get divorced." Elena's voice grew softer, more emotional. "I saw every triumph and every disappointment. I celebrated when you got into college, and I cried when your first business partnership failed. I was there for all of it, even though you never knew I existed." "But why?" Alex asked. "Why were you connected to me? Why not someone else?" "I don't know," Elena admitted. "Maybe it was the timing. Maybe it was the head injury. Maybe some people are just meant to find each other across impossible circumstances. All I know is that from the moment I first dreamed about you, you became the most important person in my world." Alex felt overwhelmed by the magnitude of what Elena was telling him. "So for 31 years you've been watching my life like some kind of guardian angel?" "Not watching," Elena corrected. "Living it with you. Feeling what you felt. Hoping what you hoped. When you were happy, I was happy. When you were heartbroken, I was heartbroken too." The weight of that kind of connection, that kind of intimate knowledge, made Alex feel dizzy. "Elena, what happened the night of the fire? How did you die?" Elena's face went pale, and for the first time since he'd met her, she looked genuinely afraid. "The fire started in the basement," she said quietly. "Faulty wiring in the old building. By the time anyone noticed, the flames had spread to the 1st and 2nd floors. Most patients were evacuated safely, but a few of us on the secure ward got trapped." She paused, staring at her wine glass. "I could have tried harder to escape. The nurses were helping people through a window in the common room. But Alex, that was the night you graduated from college. I'd been having visions of your graduation ceremony all week. And that night the vision was so strong, so clear, that I felt like I was actually there with you." Alex remembered his graduation night. He'd felt strangely emotional, almost like someone he cared about was watching him walk across that stage. "I was so focused on being there for your big moment that I didn't pay attention to the smoke until it was too late. By the time I realized the danger, the hallway to the window was already blocked by flames." Elena looked up at Alex with tears in her eyes. "I died watching you receive your diploma. It was the most beautiful and terrible moment of my existence." Alex reached across the bar and took her hand, forgetting for a moment that nobody else could see her. Her fingers felt solid and warm, as real as anything he'd ever touched. "Elena, I'm so sorry." "Don't be sorry," she said, squeezing his hand. "I got to see you achieve your dream. I got to be proud of you in that moment. It was worth it." They sat in silence for several minutes, both processing the enormity of what had been shared. "So what are you now?" Alex finally asked. "Are you a ghost, a spirit? Something else entirely?" "I honestly don't know," Elena said. "After I died, I expected everything to just end. But instead, I found myself still connected to you, still aware of your life. For the past 34 years, I've existed in some kind of in-between space. Not fully alive, but not completely gone either. And now you can appear to me, talk to me, touch me." "Only recently," Elena said. "Something changed a few months ago when you started coming to this bar. Being in the same space where I used to exist seemed to strengthen our connection. I could finally make myself visible to you, even if nobody else can see me." Alex thought about the past few months. They had been the loneliest period of his adult life. His business was failing, his personal relationships were non-existent, and he'd been spending most nights drinking alone. "Maybe I needed you," he said quietly. "Maybe I was so isolated that I unconsciously reached out across whatever barrier exists between life and death." Elena smiled through her tears. "Maybe we needed each other." As the evening grew later, Alex realized that accepting Elena's existence meant accepting that everything he thought he knew about reality was wrong. It meant believing in connections that couldn't be explained, in love that transcended death, and the possibility that sometimes impossible things were simply true. "Elena," he said, "what happens now?" Alex arrived at the hotel bar for what he knew would be his final meeting with Elena. The past 4 days had changed everything about how he saw the world, but tonight would determine what kind of future was possible. He'd spent the day thinking about Elena's warning from the night before. She'd said there was something else she needed to tell him, something about what it might cost them if she stayed. The words had haunted him all day. The Morrison project was moving forward beautifully. Alex had presented his new designs that morning, incorporating the warmth and humanity Elena had encouraged him to show. The client was thrilled. His business partner, Ryan, was amazed by the sudden turnaround in Alex's career, but none of that professional success meant anything compared to the question of what would happen with Elena. She appeared right at 8 o'clock, as she had every night this week. But tonight something was different about her. She looked less solid somehow, like she was fading around the edges. "You look tired," Alex said, concerned. Elena smiled, but it seemed to take effort. "Maintaining this form, being visible to you, it takes energy I don't really have. Each night it gets a little harder." "What does that mean?" "It means we need to make a decision tonight, Alex, about whether I stay or whether I let go." Elena ordered her wine, but Alex noticed she didn't actually drink any of it. Her hand passed through the glass when she tried to lift it. "Elena, what's happening to you? Being here with you, talking to you, touching you, it's not natural for someone in my state. I exist in a space between life and death, and trying to bridge that gap is exhausting my essence." Alex felt panic rising in his chest. "Are you saying you're going to disappear?" "I'm saying I have a choice to make." "And so do you." Elena turned to face him fully, and Alex could see pain in her eyes. "I can stay, Alex. I can keep appearing to you, keep being part of your life, but it will require more and more energy each time. Eventually it will consume whatever part of me still exists, and I'll fade away completely. No afterlife, no peace, just nothing. And if you don't stay, if I let go, I can move on to whatever comes next. Rest, peace, maybe even rebirth into a new life, but I'll lose my connection to you forever." Alex felt like the world was crashing down around him. "So my choices are to watch you slowly fade away or to say goodbye forever?" "No," Elena said softly. "Those are my choices. Your choice is different." She reached across the bar and took his hand, though her touch felt less solid than it had the night before. "Alex, you've been alone for a long time. Not just since your divorce, but really alone. You've been so focused on your career, so afraid of opening your heart to people, that you've isolated yourself from any real human connection. But I have you now." "No, you don't," Elena said gently. "You have the idea of me. You have conversations with someone only you can see." "Alex, I'm not really here. I'm a memory, a dream, a connection from another realm. But I'm not alive, and I can't give you what you actually need." Alex pulled his hand away, angry now. "So this whole week meant nothing? Everything you told me about loving me, about being connected to me, that was all lies?" "It wasn't lies," Elena said, her voice breaking slightly. "Everything I told you was true. I have loved you your entire life. I have been connected to you in ways that shouldn't be possible. But Alex, love sometimes means knowing when to let go. I don't want you to let go. Elena smiled through what looked like tears, though Alex wondered if spirits could actually cry. I know you don't. And part of me wants to stay with you forever, even if it means eventually fading into nothing, but that wouldn't be fair to either of us. What do you mean? Elena gestured around the bar, at all the people having real conversations, real connections with other living human beings. Look around you, Alex. See all these people actually living their lives? Dating, fighting, laughing, building real relationships with people who can love them back in the physical world? That could be you. That should be you. But none of them will understand me the way you do. Of course they won't, Elena said. Real relationships aren't about perfect understanding. Alex, they're about two imperfect people choosing to learn about each other, to grow together, to build something new. Alex looked around the bar and saw what Elena was talking about. A couple at a corner table was having what looked like a difficult conversation, but they were holding hands across the table. Two friends at the bar were laughing loudly at something on one of their phones. Even the bartender was chatting easily with regular customers, building the kind of casual friendships that Alex had forgotten how to make. I've been alone so long. I don't remember how to connect with real people, Alex admitted. Yes, you do, Elena said. You connected with me, didn't you? You opened your heart. You shared your dreams. You allowed yourself to be vulnerable. You can do that with someone who's actually alive. But what if they reject me? What if I open up and they don't understand? Elena laughed softly. Then you'll survive it just like you survived your divorce, just like you survived your business failures. Alex, rejection isn't the worst thing that can happen to you. Never trying is worse. They sat in silence for several minutes, both understanding that their time together was coming to an end. Elena, Alex said finally, if you let go, if you move on, will I ever see you again? I don't know, she said honestly. I don't know what happens next for someone like me. But Alex, if I do move on, if I find peace or start a new life, wouldn't that make you happy? Wouldn't that be better than watching me slowly disappear? Alex realized she was right. His feelings for Elena weren't just about his own loneliness. He genuinely cared about her well-being, even in whatever form she existed. What do you want me to do? He asked. I want you to live, Alex, really live. I want you to take those beautiful house designs of yours and build them for families who will love them. I want you to call your father and forgive him for not understanding your dreams. I want you to make friends, go on dates, maybe even fall in love with someone who can love you back in all the ways I never could. And what about you? What do you want for yourself? Elena was quiet for a long moment, staring at the wine glass she could no longer touch. I want to rest, she said finally. Alex, I've been holding on for 34 years. I've experienced an entire lifetime through your eyes, but I've never had a moment of peace. I'm tired. Alex felt tears forming in his own eyes. I don't know how to say goodbye to you. You don't have to say goodbye, Elena said. You can say thank you. Thank you? Thank you for letting me love you. Thank you for giving my existence meaning. Thank you for being the kind of person worth watching over for 34 years. Alex wiped his eyes, not caring if other people in the bar noticed him crying. Thank you for being there for all my important moments, even when I didn't know it. Thank you for caring about my dreams when nobody else did. Thank you for appearing when I needed you most. Elena stood up from her bar stool, and Alex could see that she was becoming more translucent by the minute. Alex, promise me something. Anything. Promise me you'll build that house with the wraparound porch, the one I loved from your sketches. Build it and fill it with people who make you happy. I promise. Elena leaned over and kissed his forehead. Her lips felt like a gentle breeze, warm but barely there. Goodbye, Alex. Live well. And then she was gone. Not just gone from the bar stool, but gone completely. Alex could feel the absence of her presence, like a door had closed somewhere in his soul. He sat at the bar for another hour, processing everything that had happened. Around him, life continued. People talked, laughed, argued, and connected in all the messy, imperfect ways that living people do. When Alex finally left the hotel, he didn't feel empty the way he'd expected to. Instead, he felt grateful. Elena had given him an incredible gift. Not just her love and understanding, but the reminder of what it meant to truly connect with another person. 6 months later, Alex was working on the construction site of his new house. The wraparound porch was taking shape exactly as he'd drawn it in his secret sketches. His father, who had driven up from Portland to help with the construction, was teaching him how to properly hang the porch swing. "This is a beautiful place, son," his father said, looking out at the view from the porch. "It feels like a real home." "That was the idea," Alex said, smiling. His business was thriving. The Morrison project had led to 3 more contracts, all from clients who wanted buildings that felt warm and human rather than cold and corporate. Ryan had become not just his business partner, but one of his closest friends. Alex had even started dating. Nothing serious yet, but he'd gone out several times with a woman named Jessica who worked at the coffee shop he frequented. Their conversations were nothing like his talks with Elena. Jessica didn't know his thoughts before he spoke them, didn't understand all his references, and sometimes they disagreed about things. But when she laughed at his jokes, the sound was real and unpredictable and wonderful. That evening, as Alex sat on his new porch watching the sunset, he found himself thinking about Elena, not with sadness but with warmth. He hoped she had found the peace she'd been looking for. He hoped that somewhere in whatever realm she'd moved on to, she was happy. A gentle breeze stirred the wind chimes he'd hung from the porch ceiling, creating a soft, musical sound. For just a moment,